My girlfriend, 28 years old, and I, 30 years old, have been dating for just over 6 months. She's kind, beautiful, funny, and just overall an amazing person. I'm absolutely crazy about her. That being said, I've noticed a few strange things since we've been dating. The first thing I noticed was that she always left her medicine cabinet open. I thought it was an accident at first, but even when I shut it, it's always open again after she's been in there. When I ask about it, she says that she had to get something and just forgot to shut it. The second thing was that she always gets ready in her bedroom using her phone, saying that the light is better than in the bathroom. She never uses public restrooms or even the bathroom at my place. She's kind of a weird person, something I love about her, and can be a bit odd in general, so I never really paid too much attention to these things. But something happened last week that made me realize that these things probably run deeper than just being little quirks. We were meeting up with a couple of friends at a restaurant Friday night, and as we were about to head inside, I noticed that her eye makeup was a bit smudged. I told her this, and she went to pull up her phone camera. I said that there was a mirror in the sun visor, and she should just use that. But she said that she preferred to use her phone. I insisted that it would be better to use the mirror because it was pretty dark, and the mirror had a light, and I started to pull it down. She snapped, "I said it's freaking fine," in a kind of panicked voice and slammed it back up. This really caught me off guard as it was extremely out of character for her. She's never talked to me like that. I'd never even heard her raise her voice until that moment. She immediately apologized and said that she hadn't meant to snap at me, and she overreacted, but when I asked her what that was about, she said that she just preferred not to use the mirror and brushed me off when I pressed further. On our way home, I tried to bring it up again, but I just kept getting the same answer. When I told her that I knew there had to be something else going on, she denied it and asked me to just drop it. Since this happened, I've been paying more attention when we're hanging out. At one point, we were at Walmart and passed a mirror. She scrunched her eyes shut and quickly looked away. She does the same thing when she accidentally glances at a mirror in the car. This is something that I've noticed before, but she always says it was a cold chill. I never registered that it only happened when she caught her reflection. There's a chance that I could be wrong and that there's something else going on, but I'm almost positive I'm not. I don't know how to approach the subject, but I feel like it's something that we really need to talk about. Is there a good way to bring this up without upsetting or embarrassing her? Edit. I have been getting a lot of people saying that it doesn't affect me, so I should just leave it alone. I'm probably going to take that advice just because, yes, it is still early on in our relationship, and she's probably just not comfortable talking about it right now. But my concern was how genuinely terrified her reaction was. After what happened, I realized just how much this seems to be affecting her, and I wanted to be able to be there for her. Another thing that everyone is suggesting is that she has body image issues, and I honestly hadn't thought of that. I have a cousin who has a severe phobia of clowns, and the way she reacted and the way she behaves around mirrors is very similar to how my cousin reacts to even a picture of a clown. She has also talked about how she has severe anxiety and struggled with agoraphobia for a long time. She occasionally still has trouble leaving the house, and I thought that could be related. But if it is body image issues, I should definitely wait until she's ready to talk about it. Also, I'm pretty sure she's not a vampire. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Sorry, but it has to be noted that she said that she preferred to use her phone. I insisted that it would be better to use the mirror because it was pretty dark, and the mirror had a light, and I started to pull it down. She snapped, "I said it's freaking fine," in a kind of panicked voice and slammed it back up. Stop acting like you know better than the people themselves. When a grown adult tells you they like X, don't force your Y on them just because you think it's better. It's demeaning and it causes exactly your situation here. She's not at ease to open up to you, and there's a part in there about that disrespectful interaction. Not being mean. What I'm bringing up is an actual precise problem that causes huge gaps in relationships. Let other adults make their own choices just like you give yourself the freedom to choose Y over X. Comment 2. Just wanted to add that a lot of people are assuming she is insecure or has body image issues, but another explanation is possible. She could just be genuinely frightened of mirrors, nothing to do with looks. There are a lot of spooky stories, creepypastas, and jump scares in horror movies involving mirrors. An evil version of you being in the mirror. Your reflection doing something that you're not doing. The Bloody Mary myth, the idea that your reflection will try to trap you in the mirror world, the unalived appearing in the rearview mirror behind the victim, etc. These are all common horror tropes. If you bring this up to her, please do not come at it from a place of, I know you're insecure, because she may not be. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, after the whole mirror incident, things got weirder. We were at her place, watching a movie, when her phone rang. She looked at the caller ID, panicked, and let it go to voicemail. I asked who it was, and she said it was nobody, just a wrong number. But it happened again, and again. Always the same reaction. I couldn't help but notice the name Mom flash on the screen before she quickly silenced it. Later that night, she fell asleep on the couch, and her phone buzzed with a text. I know I shouldn't have, but I glanced at it. It was from the same mom saying, "We need to talk about your father." I didn't ask her about it. I didn't want to invade her privacy, but it was clear she was hiding something big. A few days later, we were at a friend's birthday party. She was in high spirits, laughing and joking, until someone brought out a cake with a reflective topping. She froze, her smile vanished, and she excused herself, rushing to the bathroom. I followed her, concerned, and found her hyperventilating. I tried to comfort her, but she pushed me away, saying she needed space. I couldn't shake the feeling that these events were connected. Her fear of mirrors, the mysterious calls from her mom, her father being mentioned. It was like a puzzle, and I was missing crucial pieces. The next day, I did something I'm not proud of. I called the number labeled Mom from my phone. A woman answered, her voice heavy with worry. I pretended to be a telemarketer, but before I could hang up, she blurted out, "Please, if you see my daughter, tell her she needs to confront her past. She can't keep running from what happened with her father." I was stunned. What had happened with her father? I couldn't ask her directly. She'd know I invaded her privacy. So I decided to watch and wait, hoping she'd trust me enough to tell me herself. But fate had other plans. We were out for a walk when we bumped into a man who looked at her with a mix of surprise and recognition. She went pale, grabbed my hand, and pulled me away. Once we were out of earshot, she broke down, tears streaming down her face. She confessed that the man was her father, that she hadn't seen him in years after a traumatic event that she still couldn't talk about. She said seeing her own reflection reminded her of him and she couldn't bear it. I hugged her, telling her it was okay, that I was there for her. But inside, I was reeling. Her trauma was deeper than I imagined, and it was affecting every aspect of her life. The next day, I made a choice. I decided to confront her father. I thought if I could understand what happened, maybe I could help her heal. I found him at a local bar, and I asked him point blank about his past with my girlfriend. He looked at me, a mix of anger and sorrow in his eyes, and said, "You think you're helping, but you're not. Some things are better left buried." He refused to say more and walked away. I went back to my girlfriend, ready to tell her what I'd done. But when I saw her, I hesitated. She was smiling, genuinely happy for the first time in days. I couldn't bring myself to shatter that. So I kept silent, telling myself I'd made the right choice. But as I write this, I can't help but feel a gnawing doubt. Did I really do the right thing, or have I just made everything worse? Thanks for reading this far. Ada for sending my wife an article on validation and then supporting her decision to help her estranged sister. Specifically, I sent her this article, and we had a discussion about it. I sent her this because she wasn't validating my emotions and how I felt about certain things when she disagreed. I was starting to feel shut down. She didn't indicate at the time she had any issues with the discussion in the article. I told her this would help me feel more relaxed and open. For example, if two people disagree about something, and they just keep stating they want one thing while the other person wants another thing, oftentimes what helps get past that stubborn wall is to validate someone's feelings, even if you disagree with them. There is an example in the article near the end, but that may go something like this. I recognize you are wanting X, and I see that this is important to you and that you feel frustrated. But right now I need to take care of my needs. She didn't see why she should validate someone if she disagreed with them. She said, But I don't think that they should be frustrated in that situation. So I won't tell them I see that they feel that way. So I decided to try again some other time. Recently, we had a discussion and this topic was brought up. She told me she is uncomfortable about the example in the article and the examples I gave because it feels like manipulation to her. Because of that, she has felt a little distant from me. And no matter how much I tried to explain that while yes, some people can use validation to manipulate people, it is a communication and relationship skill that is healthy and not manipulative unless people have bad intentions. My wife shows love and affection toward me still, but she is hesitant when I validate her emotions, especially when I disagree with her on something. She said she had no issues with it before until I gave her those examples, and now it has caused her to feel a sense of discomfort. I feel like I just lost a huge part of my wife. She used to be much more open and vulnerable with me, and now it's different. I really want to fix this, but I think the more I try, the more it would reinforce what she is feeling. One final note. She suspects she is mildly autistic, but is not diagnosed. So I can understand how she may not see the need to validate emotions she doesn't agree with. And I am okay with that. I still wanted to try to help her understand, because when I'm feeling shut down, I'm not sure what to do. Based on all this, what should I do? Do I just stop the validation, which is genuine? When I disagree with her and avoid trying to show her it isn't manipulative, how do I manage my expectations when I hope she will try to assure me she understands my feelings when we disagree on something? Edit. I've been at work all day. There was no time to even read the comments. I skimmed through and thanked a few people, but it's very difficult with my schedule to reply to every person. Thank you to those who are trying to see it from the autism point of view. I kept the original post as to the point as possible because I didn't have much time. But to be clear, I don't talk like a robot in real life. Yes, she has trauma. She has been rapped many times, and her mom is a legitimate narcissist, which certainly doesn't help her point of view that validation is manipulation. I know there is a request for examples, but I think that counseling would be an ideal option, and I would rather have professional people help guide both of us at this point. Thank you. Now for a few comments before the update. Some people do not work well with traditional methods like this, oftentimes because they have been abused by it, whereas other people do not have a problem with the concept, but the way it is phrased to them does not make sense. Like when someone uses soft, flowery, pop psychology language like validation, it feels to some people like scheming, condescending, and manipulation. Whereas if you say, "Look, I need you to see where I'm coming from," they get it quicker. Unpopular opinion, but there is not enough information here to say if you are the jerk. Are you frustrated, just as an example, because she habitually late and disrespectful of your time? Or are you frustrated that she disagrees that you should not have to do dishes? There has to be room for rationality and critical thinking and validation, or else it is just subservience. Now for the update. Thanks for all the comments and insights on my last post. It's been a tough month. So, things escalated quickly after our last talk about validation. My wife started acting really distant, and I couldn't figure out why. I thought maybe she was still upset about the whole validation thing, but it turned out to be something else entirely. One evening, she sat me down and confessed that she'd been keeping a secret from me. She'd been in contact with her estranged sister, who she hadn't spoken to in years because of family drama. Her sister was going through a rough divorce and needed support. My wife had been helping her out financially without telling me, worried I'd disagreed because of our tight budget. This hit me hard. Not just the secret, but the fact that she didn't trust me enough to tell me. It forced me to make a hard choice. I could get angry about the money and the secrecy, or I could try to understand her position and support her decision. I remembered the time she stood by me when I made mistakes or needed help. It wasn't easy, but I chose to support her. We talked about our finances and set some boundaries to ensure we wouldn't end up in a tough spot because of the extra financial help she was giving her sister. But then, another news dropped. Her sister wanted to move in with us while she got back on her feet. Our place is small, and the thought of having someone else live with us was overwhelming. I was worried about our privacy and space, but I could see how much it meant to my wife to help her sister. We argued about it for days. I felt like my needs were being pushed aside, and she felt like I wasn't being supportive enough. It was a mess. But then, I remembered the article I'd sent her about validation. I tried to use it in our argument, telling her I understood why she wanted to help her sister. But I also needed to make sure we were taking care of ourselves. It didn't go over well. She accused me of using her own tactics against her and said it felt manipulative. That hurt. I was just trying to communicate, but it backfired. In the end, we compromised. Her sister would stay with us, but only for a month. And we'd all sit down and discuss ground rules and expectations. It was a tough decision, but it felt like the right thing to do. The month was rough, privacy was non-existent, and tensions were high. But we got through it. Her sister found a job and a place of her own, and things started to get back to normal for us. Through all this, I learned a lot about my wife and myself. I realized that sometimes you have to put your own feelings aside to support the people you love. And I saw that my wife, despite her struggles with validation and her past trauma, was capable of incredible kindness and generosity. We're still working on communication and how to handle disagreements. It's not perfect, but we're trying. And I think that's what matters most. Thanks for sticking with me through this update. It's been a rough ride, but I'm hopeful for the future. Ada for letting my dad pay off my fiancée to leave town. After he cheated, I, 32-year-old female, had been dating a wonderful 42-year-old male. Man for 1.5 years when he proposed. Until that point, our relationship had been nothing short of magical. This man is a business owner, inspirational speaker, admired by the community, and loves me fearlessly. He also loved my family, and everyone seemed excited about the engagement. That is, until my dad asked to meet with him one-on-one. They had what sounded like a normal chat, but my dad is also a businessman and asked my fiancée some business-related questions, one of which, when fact-checked later, didn't line up with my fiancé's answer. This got my dad concerned with my fiancé's truthfulness. Fast forward a few months, and my fiancé's businesses are going through a rough period. This is the first rough patch he's had since starting the business 3 years ago. He begins looking into loan options to help float through the tough period into the busy summer season. One of the loans he could immediately qualify for requires a cosigner. He talks to me about all the loans and his options for cosigners, and asks if I would feel comfortable as an option. I tell him I'd need to speak to my dad, who advises me on all big financial decisions. That day, while my fiancée is at work, I call my dad and talk to him about it, as I was under the impression this loan needed to be applied for as soon as possible. My dad advises me not to co-sign anything, not to advance any funds, and alerts me to the conversation where my fiancé had not been forthcoming about his business with my dad. Within a few weeks, and several individual meetings between my dad and my fiancé, and my dad and myself, my dad tells me that he can no longer emotionally support our relationship. And if we move forward with the wedding, I will be disinherited. I come from a degree of wealth, and my fiancé does not. This has never been an issue for us. But for my dad growing older, he seems to be increasingly concerned with where his money ends up after he passes. For reference, we also had a prenuptial agreement in process, but even with that, my dad disapproves. At first, I found my dad's actions to be extremely controlling over my personal life choices. It's not just about the money. Me and my dad are very close, and by taking these actions, he's taking away a lot more than money. My dream of having my dad walk me down the aisle, family gatherings, a relationship between any children we have, and their grandfather. So much would be so complicated and hard. I found the whole situation heartbreaking. I met with my dad after his decision was made, and it turns out he had hired a private investigator and found out that my fiancé had been living off his credit cards for the past few months, which I didn't know. I thought about all the dinners, gifts, and a vacation that had happened during those months, and was in shock that all of that had been on credit cards. But who am I to judge? My fiancé takes care of me, emotionally and financially. He pays for everything. The bills, dates, everything. He comes off as a provider, but the credit card situation and the loan situation. I felt like I couldn't see things clearly because we were living together. So I decided to move out. I own a condo that was empty. I moved back into. Since I moved out, we have been going on dates, staying the night together 1 to 2 times a week. I still wear my ring, although we have no plans to marry anymore. I still see my dad about once a week, and we don't talk about my love life. In this situation, I can't tell if my dad is being controlling and judgmental over my relationship with someone who does not come from money, or if he is truly concerned that I'm in a bad situation with someone who lacks integrity and financial stability. I can surely say this is the roughest life chapter I've experienced. With the 2 men I love most in this world at odds with each other, it has been ripping me apart. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. My fiancé had been living off his credit cards for the past few months, which I didn't know. I thought about all the dinners, gifts, and vacation that had happened during those months, and was in shock that all of that had been on credit cards. But who am I to judge? You're the fiancé. You have to judge. It's your future. He's not paying for everything if it's going on the credit card. How much is his credit card debt, and what is his plan to pay it off? A variety of factors can tell you someone's socioeconomic status. I'm sure he didn't find you in a shack. Am I blinded by love? You certainly have fallen for someone who is committed and will continue to commit financial infidelity. And I'm surprised that you could be so blasé about it. Are you trying to be with someone who's the opposite of your father? Comment 2. I don't get it, honestly. This guy very clearly targeted a rich girl, conned her into thinking he was financially stable by maxing out his credit cards, and then hit you up for cash. Your dad very smartly detected that he was lying to you. This is financial infidelity, and proved it to you. And you were clearly upset enough to move out, but you didn't break up with the guy who was very obviously attempting to con you. You still trust this guy for some reason, despite all of the evidence being perfectly clear that he's not trustworthy at all? It's a pretty weird life decision to date a proven liar and con man. I think your dad made a good call, deciding that you can't be trusted with his money, because clearly you can't. You make bad decisions. I'd suggest you get some therapy. I don't really understand the hold this guy has over you. There must be some psychological stuff going on. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. Things took a turn for the worse. The other day, my fiancé showed up at my condo unannounced. He was all smiles, said he had great news. Turns out, he managed to secure a loan without needing a co-signer. I was relieved, but something felt off. He was too happy, almost like he was hiding something. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid because of everything with my dad. But then, my dad called me, sounding more serious than ever. He said he needed to see me right away. When I got to his place, he had this look on his face, like he was about to drop a news. And he did. He showed me photos the private investigator took of my fiancé with another woman. They were holding hands, laughing, looking like a couple. My heart sank. I confronted my fiancé about it, and he swore it was a business partner from out of town, nothing more. I wanted to believe him, so I did. I told my dad he was wrong, that it was all a misunderstanding. The next day, my fiancé asked me to celebrate his new loan at a fancy dinner. It was like old times, and for a moment I forgot all the drama. After dinner, he dropped me off at my condo and said he had to meet a client. I didn't think much of it until later that night, when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman claiming to be my fiancé's business partner. She said she was sorry, but felt I needed to know the truth. She admitted they were having an affair, and that the loan he got was partly thanks to her connections. She even said he promised to leave me for her once he sorted out his finances. I was a mess. I didn't know what to do. I called my dad, and he said he'd take care of everything. He met with my fiancé the next day and offered him a deal. If he left town and me alone, my dad would pay off his debts. My fiancé took the deal. He left without saying goodbye, just a text saying he was sorry and that it was for the best. I felt betrayed, not just by my fiancé, but by my dad too. He had manipulated the situation, but I couldn't help feeling like he had saved me from a worse fate. I was angry, hurt, and confused. I had made the wrong choice by trusting my fiancé over my dad, and now I was paying the price. The aftermath was quiet. Too quiet. I stayed in my condo, trying to piece my life back together. My dad kept checking in on me, but we never talked about what happened. It was like an unspoken agreement to just move forward. Then, out of nowhere, my dad's health took a turn for the worse. He had a stroke and was in the hospital for days. I was by his side the whole time, feeling guilty for ever doubting him. When he finally woke up, he couldn't speak. The doctor said it might be permanent. I was devastated. My dad, the man who always had the right words, now couldn't say a thing. I realized then that my dad had been trying to protect me in his own way. He might have gone about it the wrong way, but he did it because he cared. And now, with him lying in that hospital bed, I felt like I had lost my guide. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day,